Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The BJP seems to have pulled out a Shinde out of its hat. Not one, but perhaps even two. Completely counterintuitive, a move in which Devendra Fadnavis, after meeting the governor today, made a surprise announcement that not him, but Eknath Shinde will be the new Chief Minister of Maharashtra. But that was not all. That was just the tip of the iceberg. Later in the evening, BJP President JP Nadda, speaking to the news agency ANI, made a public request and directed Fadnavis to be the Deputy Chief Minister. Remember, an hour before that, Fadnavis, in that press conference at the Raj Bhavan, had said that he's not going to be part of this new government. But that got overturned within the course of an hour by the BJP party president. So in one stroke, the BJP has robbed the Uddhav Thackeray Sena, the original Shiv Sena, of two of its main planks. One, of course, the plank of Hindutva, which Eknath Shinde has been claiming was the legacy of Balasaheb Thackeray, and that the Sena had moved away from its moorings. The other and more important plank that has been stolen away is that of the Maratha or the Sainik plank. And remember, the Marathas feeling sidelined was one of the sort of pet peeves that they had against the previous BJP Sena government led by Devendra Fadnavis. Now the question is, now with both of these planks being taken away, what does it mean for the future of politics in Maharashtra, and more importantly, what does it mean for the future of the Shiva Sena?
शिवसेना के नेता के रूप में आज उन्होंने मुख्यमंत्री पद के लिए अपना क्लेम माननीय राज्यपाल जी को दिया.
After 10 days of a political potboiler came the biggest twist of them all. The man who had brought down Uddhav Thackeray's 2.5-year-old government would also be his successor.
ये निर्णय जो है एक आइडियोलॉजी की बात है. ये बाला साहब ठाकरे जी की हिंदुत्व की बात है और इस राज्य के विकास की बात है.
By Shinde's side was former Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, who made it clear that he will only be backing Shinde and won't actually be in the government.
मैं इस सरकार को पूरे तरीके से सहयोग करूंगा. मैं सरकार के बाहर रहूंगा.
But then minutes before the swearing-in ceremony came another twist. An appeal to Fadnavis from BJP President JP Nadda.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी की केंद्रीय टीम ने इस बात को तय किया है कि देवेंद्र जी को सरकार में आना चाहिए और सरकार में पदभार संभालना चाहिए, और केंद्र ने इस बात को निर्देशित किया है कि देवेंद्र जी डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर के रूप में कार्यभार संभालें.
Minutes later, Fadnavis accepted the request and settled for the deputy chief minister's post.
हिंदुहृदय सम्राट बाळासाहेब ठाकरे, धर्मवीर आनंद दिघे साहेबांच्या आशीर्वादाने मी एकनाथ संभाजी शिंदे.
Shinde first took oath in the ceremony at Raj Bhavan, invoking Balasaheb Thackeray. And he was soon followed by Devendra Fadnavis. The decision to elevate rebel Eknath Shinde and not Fadnavis as chief minister is a political game changer in Maharashtra. The BJP will drive home the point that it sacrificed power for Hindutva. Shinde will say he has fulfilled Balasaheb Thackeray's dream of an ordinary Shiv Sainik becoming chief minister. So where does that leave Uddhav Thackeray? His government has fallen, he's barely clinging on to his party. Is BJP's masterstroke the final nail on the coffin of Uddhav Sena?
All right, we're getting a big breaking news that's coming in. There's going to be a special session of the assembly that's been called for Saturday. The Raj Bhavan has said that Eknath Shinde, the new Chief Minister of Maharashtra, needs to prove his majority in the House on Saturday. The new speaker is likely to be from the BJP. Therefore, the question of numbers does not arise because the numbers are firmly with Eknath Shinde and with the BJP. Of course, Devendra Fadnavis is Deputy Chief Minister there. Let me go across to Vinaya, our Mumbai Bureau Chief, with more details on this. Vinaya, so is this now just a formality because the numbers are clearly on the side of Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, or will there still be sort of legal/legislative wranglings on who the whip is and whether the whip, the official whip, is to be violated, so on and so forth, or does that question not arise?
Well, now procedurally that the speaker will have to be chosen first. That issue may not arise, Zaka, because as we know that the previous whip which was issued by Narhari Jirwal was in favor of Uddhav Thackeray-led PAC. Now when the new speaker is appointed and this group says that it will have majority, once the speaker accepts it, there is no legal tangle thereafter. So procedurally, the way it goes generally is that the speaker is appointed first and then the floor test happens. In this case, since the BJP has the numbers, the speaker will definitely be from the governing side. That will be the first test, in fact, even before the floor test. And after the speaker is elected, the floor test will happen, which means, the speaker being the presiding officer, there shouldn't be any legal tangles thereafter. We expect that a special session will be called anytime soon, and as Siddhant is reporting, by Saturday, a special session is likely to be called. First on priority would possibly be the election of the speaker, Zaka.
And very quickly, one more word, just in terms of the politics of what we've seen through today, the twists and the counter twists and so on and so forth. What is the final word coming in from the BJP on A, why they decided to give Mr. Shinde the chief ministership despite them being the bigger party, and B, the further twist that happened with Devendra Fadnavis, who himself had said that he's not going to be part of the government, and then an hour later the BJP national president asks him to be a part of the government and he gets sworn in as... All right, Eknath Shinde is just speaking. First comments after being sworn in.
मंत्रिमंडल का विस्तार कब होगा? मंत्रिमंडल का विस्तार कब होगा? आया गिरीश अब विधायक कब तक आएंगे? तो विधायक कब तक आएंगे? गोवा से कैबिनेट मध्ये काय कैबिनेट मध्ये आज काय निर्णय पहिले कॅबिनेट होते सर, इतकं सगळं हॉटस्पॉट असताना देखील तुम्ही कॅबिनेट बैठक अटेंड केली. महाराष्ट्राला महत्व देण्याचा हा प्रयत्न अशी सुद्धा आता चर्चा महाराष्ट्राच्या ज्या गरजा आहेत, ज्या समस्या आहेत,
सर्वांगीण विकास हेच आमचं उद्दिष्ट आहे.
सर, पीक पाणी खरीप वगैरे
सगळे आढावा घेतलेला आहे. अरे आता माजी मुख्यमंत्री पण सोबत आहे, त्यामुळे जोरदार
आज मी पत्रकार मित्रांना विनंती करतो, कृपया आपण पाठीमागे जाऊ. सब पीछे लोग कैमरे क्या करूँ बोल उनकी मीटिंग बहुत लोग पीछे ले लो, पीछे ले लो जगह नहीं है. अरे अरे भाई चला पीछे ले लो, कैमरे पीछे ले लो, कैमरे पीछे, कैमरे आगे, कैमरे पीछे ले लो, एक मिनट काम, कैमरे पीछे लो, एक जगह
It's Maharashtra Chief Minister, the new Chief Minister Eknath Shinde. Brief press comments. You can see the Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis to his right, and of course Narayan Rane, Cabinet Minister here in the centre, also to his right. So these are the first initial comments being made by the Chief Minister. We'll wait and see and check in with our reporters on whether anything significant is being said. He said the #1 agenda for his government is going to be Vikas. Let me now open this up to our guest, Tom Vadakan, BJP spokesperson, joining us. Shama Mohammed, Congress spokesperson. Yogi Gade is the Shiv Sena leader. Aman Lekhi, Supreme Court advocate and former ASG. Dr. Nalin Mehta is the author of the new book, The New BJP. And Dr. Sanhita Joshi is assistant professor with the Department of Politics at the University of Mumbai. Yogi Gade, I'll start with you first, sir, because it seems like by giving the opportunity of chief ministership to the Shiv Sena, to the Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena, to a Shiv Sainik, it seems like the BJP has stolen the rug from under your feet, Mr. Gade.
If you go to see by facts, sir, in 2019, party president Uddhavji Thackeray Sahib had demanded BJP 2.5 years post of CM for a Shiv Sainik only. And if this was the only thing BJP needed to do in 2019 also, exactly, that's what Shiv Sainik was saying, 2.5 years. You also have the CM post, 2.5, give it to one of my Shiv Sainiks. That is what Mr. Uddhavji Thackeray Sahib had told. And that time BJP was reluctant on not giving. And then today suddenly you see turn of events going on. So,
but sir, the fact is still yesterday evening till this morning, in fact, nobody expected that Mr. Shinde will become the chief minister. Everyone was talking about Mr. Fadnavis becoming the chief minister and Mr. Shinde possibly his deputy. But today, Mr. Shinde is the chief minister, an ordinary Shiv Sainik who followed Balasaheb Thackeray, who was an auto rickshaw driver. Today is the chief minister of Maharashtra.
Yes, and if you have go to see, Shiv Sena has made Shri Manohar Joshi, Narayan Rane, the chief ministers of Maharashtra. Like if you have seen, it's not the first time Shiv Sainik has been made a CM. We have seen that 2 times earlier. Okay. And I think this was the wish of Uddhavji Thackeray Sahib. He had told in 2014 also, in 2019 also. But that time BJP was reluctant.
Tom, you heard from the Shiv Sena spokesperson. He's saying no big deal. Narayan Rane was a Sainik, became chief minister. Uddhav Thackeray became chief minister. A lot of Sainiks have become chief minister before Eknath Shinde. So what's... All right, Mr. Shinde speaking again. Let's try and listen in to what he's saying.
मंत्रिमंडळामध्ये आहेत खरं म्हणजे त्यांनी आजच एकच शपथविधी होईल असं सांगितलं पण आदेश त्यांना आला आणि मी देखील मगाशी पत्रकार परिषदेत सांगितलं की तुम्ही देखील पाहिजे आणि ते खरं म्हणजे राज्याच्या पुढच्या वाटचालीसाठी राज्याच्या प्रगतीसाठी किंबहुना जे काही प्रकल्प आपले आपण हाती घेतले होते काही अडचणीमुळे रखडले आहेत त्यातून आपण टाइम बाउंड जे म्हणजे बिफोर टाइम जे प्रकल्प पूर्ण करण्यासंदर्भात देखील आज पहिल्याच कॅबिनेटमध्ये चर्चा झाली त्यामध्ये पीक पाणी आढावा असेल जलयुक्त शिवार असेल मेट्रोचे प्रकल्प असतील राणेसाहेब देखील या ठिकाणी उपस्थित आहेत मी त्यांचं मनापासून स्वागत करतो माझे मुख्यमंत्री राणेसाहेब पण आहेत आणि त्यामुळे आपल्याला मी सांगतो प्रशासनाला देखील आम्ही सांगितलंय अधिकाऱ्यांना की शेवटी लोकांना अपेक्षित असलेलं काम आपल्याला करायचं आहे राज्यामध्ये जी जनता आहे त्यांना अपेक्षित काम सरकारच्या वतीने पाहिजे असतं आणि त्यामुळे सुरुवातीलाच आजच्या पहिल्याच बैठकीमध्ये जे प्रकल्प सुरू केले समजा युती सरकारमध्ये आपल्या जेव्हा देवेंद्र फडणवीस साहेब मुख्यमंत्री होते त्यांच्याही काळात काही सुरुवात झाली ते काही अगदी प्रगतीपथावर आहेत अंतिम टप्प्यामध्ये आहेत आणि ते पूर्णत्वास गेले पाहिजेत यासाठी देखील ज्या अडचणी आहेत त्या दूर करण्यासंदर्भात देखील पहिल्याच दिवशी आम्ही त्याला हात घातलेला आहे म्हणजे एक लक्षात घ्या या राज्यातला सर्व समाज घटक सर्व ज्या ज्या म्हणजे अगदी कोकण पश्चिम महाराष्ट्र असेल उत्तर महाराष्ट्र असेल विदर्भ असेल सगळ्याच क्षेत्राला न्याय देण्यासाठी या ठिकाणी आमचं सरकार कटिबद्ध आहे आणि म्हणून मी आज पहिल्याच दिवशी काही जास्त बोलत नाही आपण भेटत राहू आणि आपल्या सूचना देखील आम्ही घेत राहू शेवटी आपल्याला राज्याचा विकास आणि जे काही विकासाला गती द्यायची आहे त्यासाठी आपण कटिबद्ध आहोत राज्यातल्या जनतेला अपेक्षित असलेलं काम आणि मी आपल्याला पुन्हा एकदा सांगतो आमच्याकडून होईल त्यामध्ये कुठेही आम्हाला आपल्याला माहित आहे आम्ही सगळेजण आता देवेंद्रजी फडणवीस साहेब आहेत त्यांचा देखील कामाचा ओळख आणि कामाचा त्यांचा जो काही अनुभव आहे आणि त्या काळामध्ये देखील आपण पाहिलेलं आहे त्यांच्या सरकारमध्ये देखील मी होतो आणि आम्ही समृद्धी महामार्ग जो बाळासाहेब ठाकरे समृद्धी महामार्ग जो त्यांनी सुरुवात केली आज हा राज्याचा हा गेम चेंजर प्रकल्प ठरणार आहे आणि त्यासाठी असे प्रकल्प जे आहेत हे वेळेत पूर्ण करणं आणि नवीन प्रकल्प सुरू करणं हेच आमचं उद्दिष्ट आहे शेवटी राज्यातल्या जनतेला काय पाहिजे राज्याचा उत्कर्ष पाहिजे राज्याचा विकास पाहिजे सर्वसामान्य लोकांना न्याय देणारं सरकार पाहिजे लोकांच्या मनातलं सरकार पाहिजे आणि आमचा अजेंडाच आहे की
This is a party which will give the common man justice, do welfare for the common man.
आणि त्या राज्याचा विकास हा अजेंडा आमचा आहे आणि आमदारांच्या मतदारसंघातले विकास कामं
The progress of the state is the agenda of this government.
भाग आहे आणि ज्या राज्यामध्ये मोठ्या प्रमाणावर इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर सुरू असतात त्या राज्याचा विकास गतिमानतेने होत असतो. हेच आमचं टार्गेट आहे. एवढंच आजच्या प्रसंगी मी आपल्याला सांगतो आणि यामध्ये मी आपल्याला सांगू इच्छितो आजचं जे काही ऐतिहासिक घटना झाली
I would like to tell you that this is a state where there is a demand of infrastructure development.
जवळपास 106 आणि आणखी अपक्ष म्हणून 115 पेक्षा त्यांच्याकडे संख्याबळ असताना आज एका बाळासाहेबांच्या शिवसैनिकाला त्यांनी पाठिंबा दिला हे त्यांचं मोठेपण आहे.
I'll have to tell you that today this BJP party has a strength of over 126 MLAs.
केंद्रीय गृहमंत्री महोदयांनी आणि भारतीय जनता पक्षाच्या अध्यक्षांनी या ठिकाणी माझ्यासारख्या कार्यकर्त्याला एक संधी दिलेली आहे राज्याच्या जनतेची सेवा करण्याची. ती नक्की त्यांच्या विश्वासाला तडा जाणार नाही. आणि त्याचबरोबर मगाशी म्हणालो 40+10 50 लोक आता ग्रामपंचायत नगरसेवक देखील इकडे तिकडे जात नाही. हे आमदार आहेत 3-3, 4-4 लाख लोकांनी त्यांना निवडून दिले. फार प्रयत्न खूप केले, सगळं केलं, परंतु एकही आमचा हल्ला नाही. आणि तो एक विश्वास माझ्यावर दाखवला. यासाठी मी स्वतःला
these MLAs who are with me, they are the representative of 15 lakh people individually in their constituency. They have shown that kind of trust in me.
या सर्व आमदारांना समजा इकडे म्हणजे जवळपास 170च्या वर गेलो आपण. आणखी मग किती वाढतील माहित नाही. त्यामुळे शेवटी एक भरगच्च आणि मजबूत सरकार देवेंद्रजींच्या नेतृत्वाखाली आम्ही सर्वांना
under the leadership of Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, together we are giving a very stable and a strong government.
पत्रकार संघाचे जे काही प्रश्न असतील आता आम्ही आलेलो आहोत, काळजी करू नका, सगळे सोडू.
आप शिष्टाचार के नाते सर शिष्टाचार के नाते मातोश्री जाना ऐसा कुछ पॉसिबिलिटी है?
पार्टी का क्या करते हैं काय बोलना
आणि उपस्थित सर्व पत्रकार बंधूंनो, मुख्यमंत्र्यांनी शुभेच्छा दिल्या.
साईडला मागे ना माझ्या पुढे वेग लावलं
कोणी बोलायचं नसतं. त्यामुळे मी आपल्या सर्वांना शुभेच्छा देतो आणि आम्ही निश्चितपणे आपल्याला कल्पना आहेच की पत्रकारांच्या प्रश्नाला आपण न्याय द्यायचा प्रयत्न केला. आता आम्ही दोघं मिळून त्याच्यापेक्षा दुप्पट वेगाने हे सगळे प्रश्न मार्गी लावून एवढंच आपल्याला आश्वासित करतो आणि माझं बोलणं संपवतो.
Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister, the newly sworn in Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis. Mr. Shinde saying that his only priority and first and most important priority would be Vikas, and particularly the pace of infrastructure development, which according to him had fallen over the last couple of years. Let me now bring in our guest, Sanjay Gupta of the Sena is also here. But Tom Vadakan, what was this back and forth? Because so far, like I said, up until this afternoon, everyone was thinking that it's going to be Fadnavis government in which Mr. Shinde will be the Deputy Chief Minister. But suddenly now, it is Mr. Shinde's government in which Mr. Fadnavis will be Deputy Chief Minister.
Zakha, that is why BJP is a different party and it has spread its wings across this country. Here is an auto driver representing Hindutva and fought with the Maha Ghadi tooth and nail. I mean, it was something that was unseen. He was threatened. His team was threatened. They said it's dead bodies that would come and they would go for post-mortem. You know what all they suffered. And this kind of threat has never been seen anywhere in politics. And that was played. And the puppeteers who were operating this were Sharad Pawar and Sonia Gandhi. Now, I dare ask Sonia Gandhi, can she bring Gehlot as Deputy Chief Minister and Sachin Pilot as Chief Minister. I dare say that. This is a party with a cadre, with the entire working system. They follow the leadership. They do it for the mission, and that's the mission that we are seeing forward.
Okay.
This is never in the history of Maharashtra have you seen something like this. We were on watching television like it was a continuous situation. I've been watching television for 18 hours. I've never seen anything in my life like this.
I want to ask Shama, which I think is a fair question that you're asking, Tom. I mean, would the Congress, for example, Shama Mohammed, make Sachin Pilot the Chief Minister and Ashok Gehlot the Deputy Chief Minister? In the BJP, it's possible. We've just seen it happen today.
See, in the BJP, what you have to understand, Zaka, is there's a remote control at the top. And no CM has power there, nothing, zero. Devendra Fadnavis wanted to be the CM today, he couldn't, because the order comes from the top. They keep changing chief ministers in Uttarakhand, we've seen it. And you know what has happened to a very popular leader called Yedurappa? He was just told, get off, we are putting Bomai in charge. So here we have a democratic system where the MLAs sit together and decide who will be the chief minister, depending upon, what the MLA says. So that is how it happens.
Shama, but in your party, Sachin Pilot has been rebelling for the last 3 years. T.S. Singh Dio is saying that I was given word by Rahul Gandhi after 2.5 years I'll be made chief minister. At least in the BJP, well, High Command may decide, but you don't hear murmurs after that.
No, of course, there has been so many issues in the Bharatiya Janata Party. Suddenly they come in, they take away. Look at what happened in Assam, in Tripura. So you can hear whatever murmurs you want, but there are no issues. We are not having any issues. Now you're saying there are murmurs. Did you see any protest sort of thing? Nothing is happening. We are all perfectly all right. Here in our party, there is democracy. Zaka, what is happening right now in the Bharatiya Janata Party is complete subversion. I mean, in India, is a complete subversion of democracy.
How are you saying subversion of democracy? Everything is happening normally. They have just put forth an auto rickshaw driver to become the chief minister of the state, and that is subversion of democracy. Come on, let's qualify our words when we speak on television. Subversion of democracy. How? When Uddhav Thackeray left the stated alliance BJP and Sena and joined hands with you guys, that was not subversion of democracy. Come on, Shama, let's be fair.
Yes, let me speak, Zaka. From Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, what happened in Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. So you're not saying those are not subversion of democracy?
Ma'am, if you qualify what has happened today or over the last 10 days as subversion of democracy, then it is as much subversion of democracy what happened when the Sena joined hands with you and the NCP. Anyway, I want to go to Aman Lekhi, senior Supreme Court advocate. Aman Lekhi, forget about the qualifications of subversion of democracy or whatever. The point is this, that here you're going to have a unique system where a smaller party, 39 MLAs of its own and about a dozen or so supporting, and then you have a larger party with 106 of its own and much more supporting. I think eventually the BJP support is close to 110, 115. How will this work? And that too, you have a chief minister, a deputy chief minister who's been chief minister before, finished 5 years term as chief minister, now asked to be deputy chief minister. How will this whole system work? Because ultimately, at some level, some would say, in a democracy, if it goes by numbers, the bigger party should get the shot at leading the government. That's always been the convention.
Well, Zaka, at the commencement of the program, you used the word counterintuitive. I don't think this is counterintuitive at all. In fact, this is a common sense approach, and for once, law is in sharp focus. Why is it so? It's so because this is the surest way to avoid disqualification. Repeatedly and rightly, these rebels are saying that they are not apart from the Shiv Sena, because once they say they are not, they will be covered by paragraph 2 of the 10th schedule. And until they merge, they cannot possibly be outside the 10th schedule. And if they are disqualified, then obviously along with disqualification goes the government. So this is the surest way to avoid disqualification, because the dispute now seems to be an internal dispute of Shiv Sena and therefore outside the 10th schedule. So as far as this is concerned, the surest way to avoid disqualification. So that's the reason why the earlier chief ministers of Shiv Sena, this chief minister is from Shiv Sena is not something that is disowned by the rebel group, and therefore it's outside the 10th schedule. One. So firstly, this is a means to avoid disqualification. Secondly, Where Mr. Thackeray is concerned, right now he knows he doesn't have members in the legislative party, that is those present in the assembly. But the point is, apart from legislative party, there is the organization. And his focus is now on the organization, because what he is saying is, he is now appealing to the general cadre of the party. Say, okay, I have lost the government, I am outside the legislative party, but I want to save the organizational structure of the party. Why? Because there are other elections which are around the corner. So the third issue which will come in, which is the real Shiv Sena, then that will be before the election commission.
Correct.
As to which of the two, whether it is Thackeray or whether it is Shinde, that's a different thing altogether. And the background of all this is the Supreme Court hearing, which is supposed to be in the 11th. A very peculiar order the Supreme Court passed, and we're not going to get into it because, in my opinion, the order itself legally suspect, but we are not concerned with that. The question here is, though the speaker would be new, the disqualification has to be seen on the date it is alleged. So, notwithstanding there being change in the speaker, insofar as the disqualification will be seen on the facts as they exist then. Now, this depends upon the willingness to proceed with the litigation. And because now politics is trumping law, and there's been an irreversible change in a makeshift arrangement, Supreme Court itself is a paradox. I do not know to what extent that can actually play out. But if it plays out legally, then all that we are seeing can actually be undone. That is on the theoretical, is on the theoretical purpose. But I feel in this particular case, because much can happen in 11 days' time, and this is pure a game of power and no ideology. In fact, principles have got no play in politics.
Correct.
I personally feel over this period of time, with the change scenario as it would be, law which was in the background earlier is kind of the center stage now, because the purpose of law is to protect what would otherwise quite clearly attract disqualification, may recede into the background again in 10 days' time.
No, I think
so this will continue.
He's made two very good points. One, about how there is a continuity of government, even though the individual, the chief minister may have changed and the cabinet may have changed, but the party that is the ruling party still continues to be the same. I think that's a great point. And number two, if there's going to be a new speaker, he is well within his means to sit on this disqualification petition. He's well within his right to take a different view of this disqualification petition. Maybe he will not proceed on the disqualification petition. So I want to bring in Nalan Mehta to weigh in on both of those points. But I think the point about, you know, when you have Shinde taking the lead, and this is a government of Mr. Shinde, a government of the Shiv Sena in which the BJP is also a partner, then there is a continuity of government, even though the individuals have changed and the cabinet may have changed. And I think that will play a long role even in the legal affairs that are being challenged in the Supreme Court.
That's right, Zaka. I think Aman Lekhi has laid out the legal arguments in what is a very complex a legal issue with the Supreme Court judgment. Also, we have a deadline as well on the disqualification issue. But I think politically, this move to make Shinde the chief minister and Fadnavis the deputy chief minister, there are lots of Byzantine games being played here as well. I think the optics of this is very interesting. It allows the BJP, from a BJP point of view, it allows the BJP to show grace, to show magnanimity outside of the legal battle. Politically, it's signaling. This government has been formed because of a Shiv Sena revolt. Of course, it was helped out by the BJP in various ways. We saw all the resort politics and so on.
Correct.
But fundamentally, it's a result of a schism within the Shiv Sena. What the BJP is signaling here is that they are giving, in political signaling, they are giving due respect to this new faction of the Sena, which says it is the real Shiv Sena. It strengthens Shinde's hands. There's a battle coming for control of the Shiv Sena, on which is the real Shiv Sena, even outside the confines of the assembly.
Correct.
This allows Shinde to be positioned as the true inheritor of the Bala Sahib legacy. That's the political signal that's going on. This is the BJP is signaling that is respecting this ally. It's not, the BJP has learned an earlier lesson of not being seen as the big brother, because there was a lot of so this is putting him in the driver's seat, even though the BJP has a lot of levers of power here. So I think the signaling here is particularly interesting. This is the somewhat at a very loose parallel. This has happened earlier in Bihar. There was a lot of speculation after the Bihar result that the BJP would ask for a chief ministership there, but Nitish Kumar continued to be the chief minister. Bihar and Maharashtra are very different states. But there is a parallel. But there is also a lot of signaling here. I think this underscores to me that the BJP is playing the long game here. They're not just playing the short game.
It certainly is the long game. So let me ask Sanjay Gupta of the Shiv Sena. Sanjay ji, आपके जो दो planks थे, एक तो हिंदुत्व का plank, बाला साहब का plank, वो उन्होंने एकदम छीन लिया आपके यहाँ से, बिकॉज अब देखिए ऑर्डिनरी शिव सैनिक बन गए मुख्यमंत्री। और दूसरा जो आपका प्लैंक था मराठा, देवेंद्र फडणवीस की पिछले जो रिजीम था उसमें भी वो इश्यू था कि मराठा स्टेट में एक ब्राह्मण मुख्यमंत्री है। तो वो दोनों जो प्लैंक थे आपके वो हट गया, मतलब आपके इसके नीचे से वो उन्होंने हटा दिया वो दोनों प्लैंक।
शिवसेना के यहाँ से कुछ नहीं हटा है। शिवसेना की सरकार थी, शिवसेना की सरकार है और शिवसेना की ही सरकार रहेगी, क्योंकि शिवसेना तो एक ही पॉलिटिकल पार्टी है, दो तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टियां नहीं है हमारे देश
तो
के अंदर।
शिंदे वाला सेना और ठाकरे वाला सेना अब एक है।
देखिए शिवसेना एक ही है। शिवसेना ने हमेशा ये चाहा कि शिवसेना का मुख्यमंत्री बने और शिवसेना ने हमेशा ये चाहा कि एकनाथ शिंदे मुख्यमंत्री बने। देवेंद्र फडणवीस जी जितने से डिप्टी सीएम बने हैं, इसके बाद मुझे लगता नहीं कि बहुत सी चीजें बताने और समझाने की जरूरत है, मगर फिर भी जिन चीजों को डिस्क्लोज,
इसका मतलब क्या 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 कहना चाह रहे हैं आप कि आगे जाके कोई समझौता हो सकता है ठाकरे और शिंदे के बीच में?
समझौता हो सकता है या नहीं हो सकता है इस विषय में मैं अभी कोई बात नहीं कहूंगा, लेकिन शिवसेना दो नहीं है, शिवसेना एक ही है।
नहीं, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग कह रहे हैं आप, क्योंकि अगर एक है तो पिछले 10 दिन की लड़ाई किस चीज के लिए थी?
बहुत से मुद्दे थे, जिसके अंदर मेन तो एक एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के साथ गठबंधन से बाहर आना था। यही सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा था। हमारी पार्टी में समय समय पर इस बात को कहा गया, मनोज जोशी साहब ने भी इस बात को कहा था शुरू के अंदर कि
ठीक है, तो आप तो निकल गए, आप तो वापस बीजेपी के साथ चल पड़े। तो क्या आप कह रहे हैं कि फ्यूचर डेट में, अभी नहीं, मतलब जब भी होगा 2 महीने 4 महीने 6 महीने 1 साल बाद, कोई अंडरस्टैंडिंग कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो सकता है शिंदे और ठाकरे के बीच में?
देखिए कंप्रोमाइज हो सकता है या नहीं हो सकता है, और या अभी क्या पोजीशन है इसके विषय में पार्टी ने किसी भी तरह का डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया है।
लेकिन लड़ाई नहीं होगी।
लड़ाई अगर होनी होती तो फिर फ्लो टेस्ट लाते, फिर हम शिव सैनिकों का खून बहाते। शिव सैनिकों का खून ना बहाने का जो किया गया, तो इसके पीछे मेरे को लगता है फिर इसके बाद कुछ बताने के लिए रह नहीं जाता, क्योंकि
Okay, interesting. Let me ask Dr. Sanayita Joshi, because the conventional narrative has been so far that this is going to be a fight for who will control the party, who is going to control the cadre. The BMC elections, of course, for the Sena, the BMC is very, very critical. But Sanjay Gupta here of the Shiv Sena is saying that there is no two Senas. There is only one Sena. Even now, a Sena chief minister has taken oath. Is that just him being defensive, or do you see the possibility of some kind of samjhauta at some point between the Thakre Sena and the Shinde Sena, or will it be a bloodbath for who controls this Sangathan?
I think probably to avoid the bloodbath, what he just now said, that Sena is right now disoriented. Looks like this answer actually looks disoriented. There's no clarity in that. But I feel Maharashtra as a state has always been a tricky terrain for a political party like Bharatiya Janata Party, because the politics is not similar to what kind of politics plays out in the northern state of India, because Maharashtra is a state which has always been on a front foot as far as social reforms are concerned, or has a relatively mature political culture. I feel by instituting Shinde as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and Fadnavis as the Deputy Chief Minister, this particular political design has probably aimed at achieving 3 to 4 important objectives. Only time will tell whether they've been able to achieve it or not. One is ideological consolidation of Modi-style Hindutva politics and sending a blow to Thakre dynasty, Thakre hegemony, and I would also probably say a patronizing attitude of Thakre's, because in yesterday's Uddhav Thakre's speech, he made a statement that it was Sena and the Thakre who made autowalas and hadgadiwalas, popular and powerful, right? So it sends a blow to their dynasty, their patronizing attitude. I also feel the second objective that this design has looking to achieve is claiming legitimacy for the Shinde rebel group within Shiv Sena. And I think what earlier statement was made by a representative from Shiv Sena, I think goes on similar lines. So claiming legitimacy for rebel Shinde Sena group and deepening the vertical divide in Shiv Sena. Third, strategically, this design has harped on the idea of Maratha caste dynamics in Maharashtra politics, and also consolidating the idea of Marathi Asmita, which is a pet ideology of Shiv Sena. And finally, the last point, it's definitely a ground preparing and image building exercise for Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai elections, as well as 2024 election. That's what I think this entire entire event is looking forward to achieve.
तो बीएमसी इलेक्शन जब होगी, मतलब दो सेना के कैंडिडेट्स होंगे या एक ही सेना का कैंडिडेट्स होंगे?
एक ही सेना के कैंडिडेट्स होंगे।
एक ही सेना का कैंडिडेट्स होंगे। तो इलेक्शन कमीशन के बाहर आप लड़ाई होगी, ये सिंबल किसका है या सिंबल तो कौन तय करेगा? मतलब पार्टी का अध्यक्ष कौन होगा, लेजिस्लेचर पार्टी किसकी होगी, सिंबल किसकी होगी? इस पे तो फाइट है ना।
शिवसेना की होगी और शिवसेना का जो सिंबल है वही रहेगा।
Okay. This is quite, again, I use the word counterintuitive. This is the second time I'm using this in the course of this program. But Tom Vadakan, do you see this as possibly, again, yet another twist? Because so far the conventional narrative has been that this is going to be a bloodbath. You know, who controls the Sena? Yes, Uddhav has lost the legislature party, but that's not the only thing that he has to lose. He has, you know, corporators, Panna Pramukhs, the ordinary Sainiks, MPs, so on and so forth. But Sanjay Gupta here says that there is only one Shiv Sena. I sense a sort of hint of, you know, potential compromise at some point of time. But then, you know, in politics, egos are bigger than anything else.
Zaka, I see it the ground of erosion, the fact that it is a total surrender and the acceptance of the Shinde group as the real Shiv Sena, and that is emerging. This is clearly an indication of the shift that I think Thackeray and company will look forward with very strong views. But yes, if the ground reality moves out, like the legislative assembly members who moved out, if the workers also, the cadre moves towards Shinde, I think then there will be only one Shiv Sena. And I think
but Tom, today, for example, the Mumbai BJP put out a tweet of Devendra Fadnavis holding a cricket bat and saying, "Ye sirf jhanki hai, BMC abhi baki hai," which means you are now already drawing the lines for the BMC elections, because not only is it a prestigious battle, but you know that that's where the heart and soul of the Shiv Sena is. That's where they derive their strength, their power, and most importantly, their money from.
Well, that's true. Hindutva victory, the unification of Hindutva with the Shinde group and the BJP has turned up to be a support system for Maharashtra. Elections winning or may not win, the fact of the matter, we may succeed, we may not succeed, but I'm sure they will succeed. That being the situation, it is for the development of Maharashtra that this phenomenon has occurred. And I think there will be no dispute among Sena workers that, well, let there be one Sena and let that be led by Shinde.
So, Shama Mohammed, if that's going to be the case, then the ultimate losers in this whole experiment would be the NCP and the Congress, because A, you've gotten blamed for the breakdown of this alliance, and B, if Uddhav and Shinde at some point are to merge or are to have some kind of an understanding / compromise, then again we are back to square one. The alliances as it existed pre-2019 will continue in Maharashtra. You have the BJP and the Sena on the one side, and you have the Congress and the NCP on the other.
So now the BJP spokesperson is also talking about futuristic things. How does he know what's going to happen? And how are we at loss? We have our MLAs with us. We have no issues. But I want to ask Tom a question. One of your BJP guys, Kirit Somaiya, has been going against 8 Shiv Seniks, 8 of them. Will those cases be continued? Pratap Sarnik, one of the MLAs in the group which has gone away, Rebel Group, ED has been questioning him on the TOPS Group security scam and National Spot Exchange Limited scam. Will all these questioning continue by the ED? This is what we need to know. Just like when Eknath Shinde was in the party, there was no issue. The minute he left and joined, 5 days later he joined NCP, the ED comes to your doorstep. So what is this? We all want to know about that. He continues to question these people. It's all now, once you enter the Bharatiya Janata Party, it's like you have dipped yourself inside the Ganga. You wake up and you cleanse yourself. No more ED, like no more ED for Subindu Adhikari, no more ED for Himanta CBI probe for Himanta Biswasa Sarma, no more for Mukul Roy.
Okay.
I mean, is this going to be the case? The
Tom
selective ED.
responds.
ED is the most powerful. I don't think we even need governors
There were
anymore.
multiple
That should
cases against Sena MLAs, including, of course, Pratap Sarnaik. All right, I'm getting a piece of breaking news. I think this is important. This is very important because, one second, Tom. Uddhav Thackeray has just put out a tweet. He has said, and I'm going to read out from the tweet, congratulations to the newly appointed Chief Minister of Maharashtra, me, Eknath Shinde, and Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis for the future. I wish that you do a good job in Maharashtra. So this is the first reaction from the office of Uddhav Thackeray, the former Chief Minister. He has just congratulated Maharashtra's new Chief Minister, Eknath Shinde, and Deputy Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, and said that I hope that you do a good job in Maharashtra. Again, Tom, you know, I don't want to predict anything in politics. I mean, today is as good a day to tell us that, you know, none of us can predict what is going to happen in politics. But you wouldn't have expected a congratulatory message after all the bad blood that's flown between Uddhav and the so-called rebel Sena in the last 10 days.
Zaka, to answer your question, that is political protocol. This happens. Elections are won, elections are lost, chief ministers step down. I must congratulate Uddhav Thackeray ji that he showed the statesmanship to congratulate the new chief minister. And we do hope that he works towards the interest of Maharashtra and has peace and tranquility in the state, and that would be
but you
desire.
are not saying that this could potentially lead to some kind of an understanding or samjhauta.
I think the spokesman of the Congress said that I am not an astrologer and how should I predict the future. I accept it, but let me tell you something to what she has raised. She said a lot of issues are pending before ED. Problem with the Congress is they do not understand the working of the ED.
Okay.
This is a standard script. I heard all the spokesmen speak about the Congress party. Then what about the pending cases? Let me explain. Cases are never closed. As in UPA era, cases were closed. I can tell you 5-6 cases that were closed. But here, progress is on. Investigation
I can tell you why.
continues.
Okay.
No, let me complete. Investigation continues. It's a work in progress. There is no possibility of any case being closed.
On that assurance, I've got to wrap up. I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all our guests. This was an enlightening discussion because I think there is something that we tend to underestimate in politics, and that is the surprise factor. Today has shown, of all days, there can be surprises and then there can be surprises, as we first saw with Shinde being made the chief minister, and then, of course, Devendra Fadnavis being made the Deputy Chief Minister. We'll see how this experiment will work, whether it's the real Sena, whether it will be a unified Sena, or will there be, as conventional wisdom seems to suggest, going to be a bloodbath for control of who is the real Sena from here on hence. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, a special interview. Kerala Governor Arif Mohammed Khan, one of the most erudite Islamic scholars in the country and the governor of Kerala. He'll be joining us to talk about the brutal killing that happened in Udaipur of Kanhaiya Lal, what it portends, what it means, and what the ways to deal with the aftermath of it. That's going to be right on the other side after this quick break.